Okay, good afternoon once again, class. Today we're going to discuss for computing for returns of stocks, riskiness of stocks, and then we're also going to look at portfolio returns and portfolio risk. We're going to download prices from Yahoo Finance. Okay, so first, kindly okay, okay lang Rhea. Kindly open yahoo.finance, no? And then if you look at yahoo.finance, you will have here several information that we can use, especially finance related. So if you want to search, for example, some information about Microsoft, you have to know the ticker symbol. Here it says trending tickers. Ticker symbols are quote unquote IDs to represent the company. So for example, for Microsoft, it's MSFT there. If I type MSFT, then we have here Microsoft Corporation. So it's equity. So there are other MSFT here. All right, but this is what we need, MSFT. So if we click this, okay, so we have here some information about Microsoft. Okay, so the last trading day of Microsoft, it was trading at 250.16. It increased by 94 centavos, which is a 0.38% increase. Okay, so 250.29 at close, 250.16, and then okay, it doesn't say here. Sorry, nalito ako. Previous close was 249.22. Okay, and then it ended at 250.16. All right, so if we want to download data, you can get it here. Historical data. If you click this, all right, and then we can choose. Okay, so what dates do we want? Okay, is it 1 year? Is it 5 years, 3 months, 5 days, 1 day, etc.? So maybe let's just choose. For now, let's choose the maximum is the start when this stock was traded. So let's just use for our purposes maybe 5 years. Okay. So 5 years. So that's February 28 up to 2018, February 28, 2023. And then you can choose daily. Okay, daily, because the options here are weekly or monthly prices. So let's just choose daily. And then let's apply this. Apply. And then once we apply it, okay, you'll notice that it's now February 27, and the beginning is it's 2018. So if I go down to the last, it's February of 2018. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this here. Download. So we can download this data, download, and it will download as a CSV file. All right, let's open this. Show in folder, and then I'll open this. Okay, so this is a CSV file. So we have here the date, and then we have here the opening price, the high, the low, the close, and the adjusted close, and then the volume, number of shares traded during this day. Now, it's best. It's okay, Carlos, no? So, ano na lang, tingin na lang muna, no? And then follow along pag okay na yung internet mo. Okay, so it's best to use the adjusted close, right? It's best to use the adjusted close. So what we're going to do is I'm going to okay, I'll just save this for a while. Okay, and then let's go to another stock. Let's download another stock. Let's say Microsoft. Let's say Tesla. Tesla. So Tesla Incorporated. And let's choose the same data frame. So here, historical data of Tesla. And then here, 5 years also. 5 years. Was it already traded 5 years ago? I think so. And then daily historical prices. Yeah, February 28, 2018, and then download. So let's download this again also. Download. Okay, so I have here Tesla. Show in folder. And let me open this. And then I'm going to copy this. Control C. I'm going to copy this and paste this in the MSFT. Let's combine all the stocks that were Control V. All right, that one. And then I'm going to label this as Tesla. All right, so let's download several stocks so that we have something to work on. Okay, and then let's see. Let's go to Google. Google, here Alphabet. Okay, Alphabet, and then we also do historical data. Again, 5 years so that we have the same data period as the other stocks. Historical, daily. Okay, then download. Wait, you have to make sure that you apply. Okay, I don't think I applied. Well, I'll check the Tesla one. That's okay. 2018, then 2023. Just make sure you apply. Otherwise, it might not download the prices from February 28th. Okay, let me download this. Okay, so that's Google, show in folder. So we're collecting data first, right? So I'll open Google and then just copy this, Control C, and then save this in my Microsoft file with a new worksheet, Control V, and then let me rename this as Tesla. Okay, I'm sorry, that was Google, G-O-O-G. Let's have maybe three or four more. Okay, any stocks that you like to suggest? So we have Google, we have Apple. We don't have Apple yet. AAP. Okay, Apple, right? So let's click this. Okay, we have here some tech stocks, Apple, and then historical data, and then we choose 5 years again, 5 years, and then apply. Make sure that we apply it, and then download. So it's quite tedious, plus because in R this is really automatic. It's very easy to use a particular package in R. Okay, let's open this. This is Apple. Okay. Let's just save all the files in one workbook. Control V. And this is Apple. Any other stocks that you want? Yeah, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Tesla. And maybe we can go to other industries. Okay, how about Toyota? Toyota is, I think, TYTH or to here, TM, sorry, it's TM. Toyota Motors, let's get one from the automotive industry, TM, Toyota, right? We're getting prices of stocks from different industries. Historical data, and then let's choose 5 years also here, 5 years. Apply and then download. So TM, show in folder. Let's open TM. Control C. Then let's save it again in our Microsoft. Control V. All right. Then let's call this TM, Toyota Motors. All right. What else, class? Any suggestions? Kayo naman mag-suggest. Hello? Ano stock?
Any industry, sir? Or
Yeah, any industry. Sige. Meron na tayong tech stocks, meron tayong sa automobile, meron tayong sa foods, wala tayo. Sa healthcare, wala. Sa banks.
GS, sir, Goldman Sachs.
Okay, sige, GS, Goldman Sachs, Financial Services. Here, the Goldman Sachs Group, GS. Okay, meron tayo sa Financial Services. Okay, historical data once again. And then let's do a 5-year. Make sure that we apply the 5 years. Nalagay ko bang 5 years? Okay, 5 years. Okay, apply. And then download. Next, Rhea, ikaw mag-suggest, Rhea. Please suggest a company. Kung kilala naman, parang. And this is Goldman Sachs. Rhea, next, please.
Wait, ano sir? Medyo mahina po kasi. Stocks po ba?
Oh, kanina pa tayo nagsa-stocks. Diba? Stocks naman
What
yung
about
pinag-uusapan natin.
Samsung, sir?
Samsung.
Medyo mahina po kasi.
Samsung. Check
Samsung
natin,
po.
Ano ba yung ano ng Samsung? Paki-check nga kung ano yung ticker symbol ni Samsung. Samsung. Samsung Electronics. Okay, so sa ano siya, Korea siya listed, no? Ito, Korea Stock Exchange. Okay, mag-limit na lang tayo sa ano sa US ano. Wag na muna tayo mag-international. Okay, let's just limit it to American companies or companies kasi walang ano hindi listed si Samsung Electronics sa US eh. Sana sa ano sa either NYSE or NASDAQ. Ano pa? McDonald's. Sige, McDonald's. Sige, MCD. That's a ticker symbol. Yan. Okay, yan o. New York Stock Exchange. McDonald's. Okay, yung Samsung maganda sana. Kaso, sa Korean Stock Exchange siya naka-ano.
JP Morgan po. JP Morgan.
Sige, ito muna, yung McDonald's muna. And then,
Okay, sir.
maybe after that, okay na siguro tayo. Ilan na ba? Let's make it 10. Sige. And then 5 years. Okay, apply. Okay, and then download. So this is McDonald's to, no? Control, okay. Open. Copy natin dito sa unang file na binuksan ko, NSFT. Control D. So this is MCD. So, ilan na to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 more. 3 more, and then we kahit 10 stocks. Ano yung kanina? JP Morgan?
Yes po, sir.
JPM, no? JP Morgan Chase, kay equity siya NY, New York Stock Exchange. Okay. Historical data. So meron tayong dalawang Goldman Sachs at dalawang finance company para sa portfolio natin. 5 years. 5 years. And then apply. And then download. Okay. Netflix, Kim, sige. Netflix. Ano natin, download natin si Netflix. Show folder. Okay, JPM. Control C. And then we save, I'm going to save it here. Control V. Ano to? JP Morgan, no? JP Morgan, JPM. JPM. Oops. JP Morgan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we have Netflix, and then let's have one more class. JPR. Netflix and FLX. Netflix. Yan. Equity. Sa NMS is NASDAQ yata, if I'm not mistaken. NASDAQ by NMS. Okay, then 5 years, apply, check kung ano siya, February 18, okay, download. Okay, Netflix is downloaded. Open, copy, control, shift down arrow to the right, control C, and then I'll save it here. Control V. Okay, so this is an isa pa? Sino pa? Netflix. One more class.
Amazon, sir.
Amazon. Sige, Amazon. Coke is KO, no? Sige, Amazon naman. AMZN. Amazon. So, let's go here. AMZN. Amazon. Yan. Amazon. Historical data. Let's get 5-year data daily. 5 years. 5 years. Historical data. Apply natin. And then check. Oops, bakit hindi na rin? February 22. Wait, 5 years. Okay, you have to check class na yan. Apply. Kasi minsan hindi nagre-register. Then download. All right. So we have our Amazon open. Control C. And then we copy it here. Okay. And we rename this AMZN, Amazon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, sige. Okay na yan, 10 stocks. All right, then let's save this. File. Save as. Isi-save ko dun sa ano natin, sa folder natin to save. So nasa desktop ko. Save it wherever you want. So dito sa FINMODE ko. Wala. Andun sa isa. Anyway, let me just create this folder. Nasa isang ano ko pala. Folder. Call it FINMODE. Okay. Then I'll call it stock prices. And then I'm going to save it not as a CSV file, but rather as an Excel file. Kasi we're going to manipulate it. Excel workbook here. So save natin class not as a CSV file, but an Excel workbook. Save. Okay. Ito na, no? Stock prices na. There. All right. So 228. Okay, there are ways for us to combine this. However, for now, it's better actually to use the adjusted close. Kasi anong difference ng closing price sa adjusted close? Adjusted close takes into consideration mga adjustment dun sa price ng asset. Kung may dividends na in-issue, kung may stock splits, split up, split down, it's considered in the adjusted close. So preferably, ito sanang ano natin, no? Kaso for comparison purposes, kasi I'm going to teach you another way to do this. Tapos dun sa way na yon, walang adjusted close. So let's just use the close data. All right. So I'm going to combine all of this. My way to combine it, kaso dali. So there's a way to combine, pero wag na muna ngayon, no? Kasi in the interest of time, madali sana yon. Pero what I'm going to do is just copy the date na muna. Okay, so let me delete this. And then control, I'm going to copy. Oops. Yan. I'm going to copy si Microsoft dito. And then, na-double siya, no? Ay. Na-double si, we don't want the double of Amazon. Delete natin ito. Si Microsoft, gagawin ko siyang all, no? And then maybe name this one, all. Ibig sabihin lahat ng stocks yan. Okay, that's what we're going to do is, i-delete natin yung, delete natin to, and then we'll just leave the closing price, delete, and then I'm going to name this Microsoft MSFT para alam ko kung anong stock to. MSFT. All right, then I'm going to do that for Tesla. Okay, actually pare-pareho naman sila ng prices. So copy this, Control C, Control V, and then so this is Tesla, TSLA. So we're putting side by side the prices. And then, check lang natin kung pareho yung ending. Okay. 2/27/2023. All right. Then, Google, copy natin ulit si close, Control C, and then dito sa all, Control V, and then I'll put this Google so that we know what price this is. And then Apple, again, copy the closing, Control C, Control V. Let's put here AAPL. Okay. And then Toyota, Control C, Control V. So we have here Toyota Motors. And then Goldman Sachs. Again, the close one, the close price, Control C, Control V. This is Goldman Sachs, GS. And then McDonald's, copy natin si close, Control C. And then Control V. This is MCD. McDonald's, and then last three, JP Morgan. Control C, Control V, JPM. Right. And Netflix, close, Control C, Control V. And this is our NFLX, Netflix. And lastly is our Amazon. Again, let's copy the closing price, Control C, and Control V. Okay, AMZN. Okay, just to remind you, class, that we would have chosen the adjusted close. Although some analysts may tend to disagree that it's the adjusted close that's the best. So medyo there's a let's say discussion going on about this. For me, I personally would prefer the adjusted close. Okay, the only reason why we're choosing the closing price now is that we're going to learn also how to do this in another way. Okay, and then unfortunately the price that is only available for us to do is yung closing lang, no, dun sa function na yan. Okay, so we have now the date. We have 10 stocks, no? Microsoft, Tesla, Google, Apple, Toyota Motors, Goldman Sachs, McDonald's, JP Morgan, Netflix, and Amazon. So this is quite a diversified asset portfolio, basket of assets. Now, from the theories of finance, we are told that in order to lower the risk of your asset of a portfolio, it would be good to add more stocks. Okay, there are varying different research outputs. Some would say 10 to 20 stocks, other would say 40 stocks, etc. But of course, it's really difficult to really watch over your portfolio if you're maintaining 40 assets. So nowadays, the in thing is to invest in a mutual fund, because a mutual fund will mimic a portfolio. And what's good is that you have a professional managers really looking at your investment. If you don't know if you do not have the know-how, and if you don't have the time to really take care of your portfolio, then mutual funds is the way to go, because it will approximate having your own portfolio of stocks, and then having a professional, one who's really trained to look at the portfolio of assets through that mutual fund. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to learn is, let's learn how to compute for the returns, average returns. Okay, the long cut is, okay, let's check if, okay, the date is okay. It's from the earliest to the latest. So there are different ways to compute for the returns. Control C. Let's copy it here. So let's call this returns. Let's call it first simple returns. Let's first learn the basics of computing for returns. So the formula for simple returns is simply, what's the formula? Okay, let me use my, okay, so draw. So for simple returns, it's simply, let me open a, okay, simple returns. Simple returns, or this is also called discrete returns, and it's equal to price at time t. Okay, what you learned maybe in high school, price time t minus 1 over price at time t minus 1. Now, of course, in Excel, if you're using Excel, this is not a good formula because you will have to put in parentheses. So when you write this formula in Excel, it's equal to, so you write an open parenthesis and then link towards the price at time t minus link to the price time t minus 1, close parenthesis, and then divided by, and then p sub t minus 1. Okay, so that's not a good way to write or to conduct your formula in Excel. So this can actually be converted into, so let's distribute the denominator throughout all the denominators. So that's p sub t, price of time t over price of time t minus 1. Okay, and then this one, so this is minus 1. So this is a lot easier in Excel because you just type directly, you link to the price of time t divided by price time t minus 1, then minus 1. You don't need to put parentheses there. Okay, so that's your simple returns. Okay, so let's go to our assets. Okay, so our simple returns here will be equal to the price at time t. If we're looking at these two stock prices, this is time t, this is time t minus 1. Okay, price time t minus 1, right? And then minus 1. Control Enter. So you have this. And then we can copy, of course, the formula. Okay, formula to the left, to the right, and then click arrow down. All right. So you can now see that there are 1,259. So let me just hide some of them. Okay. Sorry, I'll just hide some of them. Okay, maybe I'll start with 6. All right. 6 up to here. The last 5. And then I'm going to hide this. Hide. All right. So that way, class. Okay, ang nangyari dito, okay. Control Z. Did I make a wrong formula here? Okay, may mga errors tayo dito, no? Okay, so what happened here? All right, wala tayong prices nitong assets na to, no? Okay, what's this asset? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Apple, wala. Why? Apple ba yan? 2019. Toyota? Posible. Okay, what happened here? All right. TM. Tingnan natin TM. Okay. Ito yung kanina hindi ko na-apply, no? Take a look at this one. TM starts with 2022. So, may mali tayo sa TM. Ano pa? That's why I said you better make sure that you check and then you click apply. Ito din, TM at saka si Goldman Sachs, wala rin. Okay, may mga missing prices siya. And JPM. So, sorry let me go back here. TM. Toyota Motors. Like historical data. So, hindi ko nagawa to kanina, no? Historical data, and then here, 5 years. Ayan. Dapat mag-a-appear yung 5 years dito. And then, just to make sure, i-apply ko siya. And then, oops, tingnan nyo. Why does it revert back to 2022? Does that mean that walang imposible? Toyota to eh.
Complete po siya for me. So baka sa pag-download ng data.
Complete sa inyo? Okay, sige. Download ko na. Okay, check ko. TM1. TM1. This one. Ayan. Okay na to. Yan, 18. So I'll copy this. Control C. And balikan ko yung stock prices. I should close some of this already. It's getting to be very huge. Control B. Okay, so this is TM. All right. Okay na siya, hanggang dulo. And the next one is Goldman Sachs, GS. Okay, let me just close. Don't save na lang. Okay. Ang dami nang naka Netflix close natin, JPM, Donald's, Goldman Sachs, Toyota, Apple, Google, Tesla. Okay, close. All right, PM, and then what else? What else did I miss out? Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. Can you send these two files, Goldman Sachs, so that I won't. Sige, anyway, this lang naman. Goldman Sachs. Five years. Okay, download. GS1, Goldman Sachs 1. Okay. Anyway, ngayon lang naman tayo mag-load ng data. And the rest will be more on complication. Control C. And let me go back to stock prices ko. So this Control B. Okay, GS. And then meron pa ba? May mga errors pa ba ako dito sa ito. This one is JP Morgan. Okay, I think that's the only one left. So JPM, JP Morgan, Chase and Company. So historical data. Okay, again, 25 years. 5-year data. Okay, right, download. Open JPM1. Okay, and 2018. Control C, copy the close. Stock prices. Go up here. JPM, Control B. This is JPM. Okay. All right. So we now have our data. Okay, 10 returns. No? Tapos, you have here your simple returns. Okay. Let's just Control 1. Let's just reduce this to kahit 4 decimal places na lang. Masyado mahaba. Yan, 4 decimal places. All right. Then there's another return class. It's called log returns. Okay, so there's a difference between simple returns and log returns. So from a financial perspective, mas ginagamit yung log returns kaysa sa simple returns. Okay, sige nga, paki-check. How do we compute for the log returns? What's the formula to compute for your log returns? Class? Ln of t over t minus 1. What's your t, Luis?
For example, row 3 po, yung row 3
What's
sa
your
Excel.
what's your t here?
The next days.
The price
Current
at
day,
time.
current day
That's
price.
the price at time t, no? Diba?
Yes po.
And
Yes
the
po.
time t minus 1 is the price of the previous depende kung weekly or monthly, kasi pwedeng monthly, pwedeng weekly. In our case, our data is daily. All right. So it's the log. If you take a look at the formula shared by, okay, ito yung shinare ni, ni Luis. By the way, thank you, Luis. So, sabi ni Luis, it's, asa na yung ano ko? Oops. Can't see this, right? It's log of price at time t over price at time t minus 1. Okay, so if you're performing it via log, this is also equivalent to log of price at time t minus log at price time t minus 1. It's a difference. Kasi by definition, the log of a over b is equal to the log of a minus the log of b. Now, what's used oftentimes is, sa Excel kasi, log, no, yung base 10. Pero if it's the base e, exponential, let me just clear the drawings. We can use the ln function. So this is equal to ln, okay? So returns the natural logarithm of a number. Okay, ln of the price at time t, asa na si Microsoft to, okay, divided by t minus 1. All right. So you notice it's quite close to the simple returns. Hindi naman siya nagkakalayo. And it's just the same as, okay, so let me just insert this one. It's just the same as getting the log of these prices muna. So let me just prove that it's the log of, to get okay, ln of price at time t, this one, right? And then minus ln of b2. So this is the price at time t minus the price at time t minus 1. Okay, so if we get the difference of that, it's the same. Okay, so I just proved that the returns, log returns, is simply the log of the quotient, price at time t over price at time t minus 1, which is just the same as the log of the price at time t minus the log of, or ln of price of time t minus 1. Okay, so let's delete this. Delete. All right, so we can now just copy the formula. All right. Okay, and then let me hide. Mahaba kasi yung data natin, no? Para mas maiksi lang yung. All right. I'm just going to show the last 5. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Hide. Okay. All right. So, kita natin dito, 3 to 6 and then 1 to 5, 6. That way, mas mabilis yung pag-compute natin. All right. So, if we're going to use the log returns, okay, saan na yung natin? Ito pala yung simple returns natin. Okay. Let me just put this in a box. Okay. All right. So ito yung log returns natin, ano? Put it also with a border. All right. So what we're interested in is we will be needing the average returns. No? The average returns, average log returns. Of course, if we get the average here, average, let's put average here. So the average here will be equal to average. Okay, and then highlight this. Okay, this is the advantage of hiding. Control Enter. All right, then we can now. Okay. So those are the average returns. The average daily return for Microsoft is daily returns on 0.0010. Ito naman yung log returns. Usually the log returns will be lower than the simple returns. Okay. Any questions so far, class? Let me pause for a while. I might be going too fast. Okay, kindly chat, please, if you were able to follow. At least you were able to compute for the average returns. Waiting for your chat, class. Feedback, please. Or feedback, yes. Okay. All right. So I hope the others are able to follow along. Okay, so we can also compute for ano muna natin to, i-hide natin to. Ay, hindi. No, cannot do that. So let's compute now for the risk. So the risk is measured by the standard deviation. Dalawang klase, no? Pwedeng variance at saka pwede din yung risk na ang measurement natin is the standard deviation. And then we have here the modified Sharpe ratio. Okay, so how do we compute for the variance? So we need to compute for the variance of the returns, no? Yung returns ang kino-compute natin, average ng returns, variance ng returns. So this is equal to var.s. sample lang siya, no? Kasi hindi naman to yung population ng buong prices ng mga stocks na to eh. So we only use var.s, which I hope you still recall yung formula sa stat, which is just the returns minus the average returns, okay? Squared, sum it up and then squared, and then over n minus 1. So, yun ang variance. Okay, variance ng returns ni Microsoft here. Okay, control enter. Right, maybe mamaya na lang gawin natin percent para hanggang dito sa dulo na, no? We can make that as percent para medyo yan, para medyo mas mas konti in decimal places. Right? And even the returns. Let's make it into a percent. Okay, so that's the measurement of the risk. Okay, we can get the standard of the square root of this, square root nito, to get the risk in terms of the standard deviation. But let's not do that. Just, we can use, of course, stdev that s standard deviation sample of the returns. Okay, and then I expect also to get 0.019 for Microsoft. Control enter. Okay, pareho lang, no? Okay, i-percentage rin natin. Right? And then let's copy this to the right. Okay, so these are your metrics for the average returns, okay, average daily returns, and then you have your metric for your risk, and then your metric for your standard deviation, and then let's compute for the Sharpe ratio, which is just the expected return divided by the risk. So this is the expected return, the average return divided by the risk. Control enter. All right, so control 1, make it 3 decimal places. All right, so that's your Sharpe ratio. Let me just color code this a bit so that we can see where is your log returns, based on log returns and based on your, okay, based on the simple returns, this is based on the log returns. Okay, any questions so far, class? Any questions? Okay, none, thank you. All right, now, how did we compute for the average returns? This is your average returns. Let's clarify the name. So what we did was to first compute for the returns and then get the average of that. Now our exercise now is to, okay, we want to compute for this. Okay, let me just put another color to this. Masyadong kulay. Anyway, whatever. Yan na lang, no? Para ma-distinguish lang. Now, let's learn some techniques, no? Some shortcuts. Let's compute for the log returns here. Gamitin natin log returns, which means i-hide na lang natin to, no? Let me hide this. Hide, okay? And then I'm going to change the color kasi pareho na dun sa isa. Yan na lang. Okay. Now, is it possible, class, not to generate these returns and then get its average. Let's just use the prices and then compute for the returns itself. So dapat dito, isang formula, tapos mako-compute ko na si returns. One formula here, mako-compute ko na si returns, copy ko na to the right, and then I'll be able to generate this. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds, class, maybe 1 minute, to try to see if we can compute for the log returns without having to generate these columns. No? What we did here was to generate the log returns per period. Tapos saka natin kinuha yung average. All right, I'll give you a few minutes, 2 minutes maybe. Okay, so let me pause share. All right, sige class. Try to come up with a formula so that hindi na natin kailangan tong log returns ito dito, no? Yung computation na to. Makukompute natin dito. Sige, go please. I'm just flashing my screen, class, no? If you're done, class, kindly chat, please. Apat na lang kayo. Asa nangyari sa iba? I was supposed to ask si Francis now. Where's Francis?
Sir,
Yes.
yeah, I think I arrived late, but I wasn't able to record all of the stock sheets, sir, so I can't really follow.
So anyway, ipopost ko yung recording, ano, so
Yes, sir, I'll
just
just
make sure to watch the video.
yes, sir, I'll just follow through.
Okay. All right. Anyone would like to take a guess kung paano to? I was able to get the answers, no? So I just base it on the prices without computing for the returns. Of course, you can do this. We can compute for the returns first and then get the average returns, get the variance of the returns, the risk, the standard deviation of the returns, and then the Sharpe ratio, which is the ratio of your return per unit risk. Okay, so oftentimes this is used in finance, yung Sharpe ratio, because it it normalizes, which means it puts in the same perspective. How should I term it? It makes the stocks comparable because it's the risk is per unit. Okay, the risk is per unit because we're dividing by the risk, so that means the denominator is 1 and the denominator is per unit risk. Okay, so it's the return per unit risk. So the higher, the better, and it's comparable because you're now looking at the returns based on the same amount of risk, unit risk. All right, so this can be done. Let me delete this. Okay, and let's do this, class. So how do we compute for the, let's review, class, how we computed for this one. The first step was to get the ratio, right? ln of price at time t divided by price at time t minus 1. So we get the ln of that, copied it. So each of these are actually the ratios of the natural log. And then we got the average. So this is just the average of all the log returns. Now, if we can put that in one step, okay, here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the ln. But I'm not going to do it on a per period basis. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use arrays. Okay, could you please tell me what are the PT, P sub t here? What can we consider as price at time t? And what will we consider as price at time t minus 1? Anyone? Can this be considered as price at time t? This one?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because there's a price before it.
Yes, okay. Ito pwede, no? This can be considered as price at time t. How about this one?
Pwede rin, sir.
Pwede rin, no? So lahat ng mga prices na may previous price that can form part of your array of price at time t. Okay, how about yung time t minus 1? Okay, ito ba pwede maging time t minus 1? Itong 228?
Yes, sir.
Yes, bakit?
May price following it.
Okay, may price following it. So all the assets, all the prices that have prices following it can be considered as part of that array of price t minus 1. Ito pwede ba? Ito?
No, sir.
No, hindi pa pwede. Sa price at time t, ito pa pwede ba?
Yes.
Time t, p sub t.
No, sir.
Hindi pa pwede kasi wala siyang previews. No? So this is what we're going to do. Kasi ang formula price at time t divided by price at time t minus 1. So we're not going to look at it from a individual asset perspective. Kukunin natin yung array. Ano yung array ng price at time t? Ito. Ito, di ba? Ito lahat pwedeng time t yan. This one. Right? So from B3 to B1 to 259, that's time t. And then i-divide natin sa dito. All right? Okay, let's first take a look at this. So this is, we're getting the ln, the natural log of the array of price at time t divided by price at time t minus 1. So by pair yan, no? By pair. B sub 3 will be paired to B sub 2. So each one of these elements here will be paired to this one. So exacto dapat yan. No? All right? And since this is an array, so we're not just looking at one asset. Okay? Ano siya, no? It's one array. If I press F9, okay, it will give us several answers. Diba? Several answers to hindi siya yung hindi siya yung iisa lang, no? Kasi array yan eh. Tingnan niyo to. Hindi lang kita natin negative 0.009 pero yun yan. No? Tapos ito, yung susunod, 0022, ito ba yan? (006) yan. Ito. Basta class ito yun, no? Alright? Okay. Balik ako, Control Z. So binalik ko, no? So this one will give us an array. In fact, this is the array. Ito yun. Ito. And then we just get the average. Average. So average of this array. Now the technique here is that, anong technique dito? Since this is an array, dapat ang pag-ano natin ng formula, Control Shift Enter. Yun ang pag-press ng natin formula. Control Shift Enter. There. Alright. Di ba pareho? And if you take a look at the formula bar, tingnan nyo ito. You have here brackets. No? Hindi naman natin tinype yung brackets eh. Excel automatically place that there, which indicates that this is an array formula. You're dealing with arrays. Okay, and then we can now copy this. Okay, so everything is the same. Parehong-pareho siya. So, anong exercise to, class? This is the beauty of arrays. Kahit hindi na natin gawin to, no? Okay? But of course, sometimes we might need this. Yung iba, mas gusto to kasi nakikita nila and they're reminded that they're looking at returns and not the prices. Alright, so ganun din dito, no? How do we compute for the risk? Risk is just the variance. The variance of what? Again, the variance of the log returns. No? So kunin muna natin log returns natin. So that's ln log returns, natural log ng returns ng price at time t divided by price at time t minus 1. Right? That's the log returns, and then we get the variance. Variance.s. Sample. There. Right? Variance.s. Control, Shift, Enter. Sabay-sabay, Control, Shift, Enter. Okay. And then format nyo na lang, 0.039%. There. Okay, they should be the same. And also, of course, for the risks, sisimulan muna natin ulit sa log, risk and standard deviation. Of course, you can just get the square root of this. No? Square root nito will give us this 1.965. But let's just follow the formula. It's the log of the prices at time t divided by the log of the prices at time t minus 1. All right? So that's the log of that. And then let's get the st dev dot s, standard deviation. Okay, open parenthesis. Yung x equal to, andi dito dapat, equal to, and then we close this. Kita nyo yung yung formula, no? ln of, yung blue, yung price at time t, yung red, yung time t minus 1. So you get the ln of that. That will be an array, and then you get the standard deviation of this array. Control Shift Enter, because this is an array, you get 1.965 there. Okay? And yung Sharpe ratio, just a simple division lang, hindi na natin kailangan yun. That's average returns divided by the standard deviation. Control Enter. So hindi naman siya ano lang siya, scalar. Okay. There you go. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to make sure that you have the same. Any questions? Yes. Luis, yung bracket hindi natin sinulat siya na, diba? Let me redo this. So this is equal to, diba yung average return is kunin mo natin yung log, no? Ng price at time t divided by time t minus 1. All right. So we said that this will generate, if I highlight this and then press F9, ibibigay niya sa atin yung mga values ng yan, yung ln ng price at time t minus time t minus 1. Okay, so these are the hindi ko lang makita yung no? 0.00971. Ibig sabihin nito, hindi ito yung una, no? The first one is gitna na siya. So let me just compare, no? Okay, ito, tingnan nyo. Negative 0.00998 or 99, ito yun, no? Tapos 0.002, this one, it's this one. And then 0.0063, it's the third one. Yun. So exactly the same yan, ha? Okay? So I pressed F9 para mapakita ko yung answer na yun. And then Control Z to go back. Yan. So this one, class, is an array. Okay? So it's not only one answer, it's several answers. It's actually this one. Yung buo nito. And then we're getting the average, diba? So we're getting the average returns. So average of that, average. All right. And then I press Control Shift Enter. Why do I have to press Control Shift Enter? Kasi array to, no? When you're dealing with arrays, you don't just press Enter. Mag-error ka, no? So I press Control Shift Enter. At subukan ko, Enter lang. Okay. In this case, tumama, no? Kasi scalar yung nasa ano natin. Scalar. Pero, okay, let me highlight this. No? Papakita ko lang. Is equal to ln, let's say, diba, ln nito divided by this one. So this is the returns. Okay, tingnan nyo, Control Shift Enter. If I press Enter, nagbago na yata si ano. Okay. So, inuno niya lahat, ano? Kaso, take note na ano lang siya, no? hindi siya in array. Okay, pero kung ang ginawa natin is Control Shift Enter, okay, take a look at the difference. No? Ito, may brackets, which indicates that this is an array formula. Okay, there are instances when an array formula is very important. So hindi pa pwedeng hindi array. So as to the question, Luis, kung para sa yung brackets, hindi tayo naglagay niyan. That was automatically generated by by Excel when we press sa formula, Control Shift Enter, and tignan mo. Yan. So this indicates that this is an array formula. Copy this to the right. Yan. Continue natin yung mga formulas, array formulas. And also the others. They are array formulas. Okay, so may advantage class yung using arrays. Okay, because we were able to even generate the average log returns without having to go through this one. So yung concept ng arrays are very important. All right. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Any other questions, class? Okay, so I will not start anymore yung next The next part, so next meeting, next Friday, ang gagawin natin, mag-create tayo ng portfolio. What's a portfolio? It's a basket of stocks. Gagamitin natin itong 10 stocks. Okay? So we're going to show that if you have a portfolio of stocks, the risk, the risk ng portfolio ng stocks natin, ng asset natin, will be lower than any of this. Okay? Kasi ito yung risk ng bawat asset. No? The return will be, it will be less than the highest and greater than the lowest. Pero ang ginagawa ng portfolio is that you have a basket of assets where the risk of that portfolio is less than any of the risk of your assets here. Okay, kaya ito yung principle ng risk and return. Okay, so we'll do that next time. Okay, just one last question. In this case, if you're going to look at these assets individually, sino yung pinakamagaling na performer? Okay, it turns out that si Apple, no? Apple and then Tesla. Why did we say so? In terms of returns, if we will just take a look at the returns. Okay. Kasi daily returns to, no? Let me just show you how to make these annual returns. In order to convert this into annual returns, so it's equal to 1 plus this returns, okay? And then we raise it to what? 252. Okay, bakit 252? Kasi sa isang year, okay, there are 252 trading days and then minus 1. So to convert your average daily returns into annual returns, you use this formula. 1 plus the returns raised to 252 minus 1. Okay, so this one tells us that just put 8% here. So the average return of Microsoft was 21. Okay, let's copy this to the right. So si Tesla, 55. Si Google, 10%. Okay, 0.175. So Tesla had the highest average returns for this period from 2015 to 2022. Okay, siya yung pinaka-highest period. Pero yung risk naman, if we're going to, kasi daily risk din to, no? Let's convert it into annual risk. So how do we convert the daily risk into annual risk? So it's equal to the daily risk, okay, multiplied by square root of 252. Square root of 252. Control Enter. Let's make it percentage then. So this is the annual risk. So this is annual returns. This is annual risk and standard deviation. Okay, so therefore we can now compute for the Sharpe ratio. Okay, annual, which is just equal to the annual returns divided by the annual risk. Percent na lang natin to. All right. Okay. So it turns out here that the highest Sharpe ratio is Tesla, 83%. So the higher the Sharpe ratio, the better. Because as I said, we're now comparing the returns based on the similar amount of risk. Tigo 1% sila. So remember, ang Sharpe ratio class, ang denominator nito, sigma, di ba ito? So we are standardizing the risk. So ibig sabihin nito 83.54 returns, annual returns over one unit ng risk. Okay, so pare-pareho silang risk, pero ang returns ni Tesla is 83.54. Next is Apple. Okay, the lowest here, nga walang negative. Minsan pa may negative na returns. Okay, na average returns. So it's Tesla. If we rank this and then Apple and then Microsoft, etc. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, class. Okay, I hope you learned something today. We're going to continue with this next meeting. Pakidala tong pala to next meeting.
Thank you
Alright.
so much, sir.
Thank you, class. Thank you. Stop recording.